Semiotics in Architecture, Reading Signs at Daniel Lipskin's Jewish Museum, Berlin. I think Daniel Lipskin's Jewish Museum is a very special project for anybody who is interested in emoting through architecture. The kind of emotions that get depicted, the fact that even emotions can get depicted using the built environment, and about how do you mold the built environment so that you can actually express emotions such as fear, continuity, hope, claustrophobia, uh, the fact that you cannot reach something, all this to be expressed using the built environment. And I think that is the reason why this project becomes so special for anybody who is interested in deriving a connection between emotions and the built environment. To begin with, if I have to get the dictionary definition of what a museum is a building in which objects of historical, scientific, artistic, or cultural interest are stored and exhibited. Having said that, now if we have to categorize the Jewish Museum, you could be classifying or categorizing museum buildings under usages. So either a museum gets built, that is a new building is built for the specific purpose of the museum, or you have an existing structure which then gets adapted to the exhibits. Uh, this museum is both. It has a part which is older and then it has a part which is newer. So you do have a little bit of both. The second part where you would want to kind of categorize or classify museums would be one where the building itself expresses the sentiment of the museum. The building becomes an expression of why the museum was built, what is the deeper purpose of building that museum, or you imagine the building to be a canvas of sorts, and then it helps you to exhibit certain objects within the built environment, which then tell you the story of a particular event in history or a particular important occasion in history. Now, this museum does both again. It because for the first few years that this museum was open, it did not house any exhibits, and yet it became so famous that there were still people who would want to come just to visit the building. So a little more on that debate on the upcoming slides as to whether a museum should be something like a canvas or whether it should have an expression of its own, whether it should be iconic or whether it should be something which is kind of a little devoid when it comes to its language. And then you have different types of museum buildings. So whether it is a biographical museum, is it a history museum, is it a memorial museum, it is all of these. And well, there are many more types of museums. I could identify these three being the most directly related to the Jewish Museum. Site context. When we end up designing in an architectural design studio, one thing that almost every teacher tells you is to respect your context. What does it mean to respect one's context? Here is a historical building for you, and then right next to it, you have this very metallic looking facade which has these gashes going across. In what way does the new building, so-called, respect the old building? And what does it mean to even show us show some amount of connection with the context? One should be with heights, the fact that you don't go too high or too low. I think that is one of the things that will kind of define whether you are being a part of the environment or no. Does it make sense to make absolute clones of an existing historical building? I believe no. I think that is rather ridiculous to be, you live in a particular time you live in 2021, you might as well build according to what is required as of today. But yes, this whole idea of having a context and then building according to the context, that is something to be learnt out of this museum. The next thing is a very interesting phenomenon where for the entrance to the museum comes out of its neighboring building. And what does that mean? It is a huge thing to have your entrance of your house kind of very significant, very important looking. You always try to mark the entrances of houses because it almost stands as a very important part of your identity, and to kind of put your identity into somebody else's house, and then you kind of enter this museum. So the whole idea was that Jews lived in bunkers, trying to protect themselves, trying to hide their identity so that they did not get killed. And that is kind of expressed by putting the entrance of this museum through another building. So you enter a very unassuming entrance, and from there, the whole journey of their story is kind of unraveled. And this becomes a very interesting way in which you can translate something that has happened to the Jews in the past using the built environment of the museum entrance. The other thing is to use the form of the Jewish star itself. Uh, there have been many, and the sources are kind of written down, but there have been many interpretations of how the Jewish star was taken, and it was broken down into its basic elements, and then that kind of emerged into the form building exercise of the museum itself. Um, This may be reading too much into the form of the building, but it is an interesting observation nevertheless. The other interesting part of this building are the voids. So, the void in this particular building is a space which can be visually seen, but you cannot access it. And what it tries to imply to its users would be that some emotions or some things that the Jewish people experienced and went through, the rest of the world can see, and the rest of the world can observe as a third party. But if you try to if you even get the semblance of an understanding of it is impossible to go through it firsthand, and it is not possible to understand it completely if it hasn't happened to you. And these areas, the voids, represent that emotion, that you may be an observer and you may be able to look at a particular event from the outside, but there will be portions of experience, there will be parts of what they have gone through which you will never completely understand, and hence some things are better left to be seen from a distance. The facade and its openings. Um, Again, I think even as an architecture student, this became one of the first projects where we ended up looking at openings to be in the shape of gashes, to be in the shape of, literally, if you took a blade and you cut across a facade, those kinds of slits in the facade, and that brings the light in. And I mean, it's beautiful to see something as different as this when we are in everyday world. We are so used to be seeing these rectangular windows for every room, and suddenly you see this different way of showing facades and openings. The other part of the project, which is worth discussing, would be the Garden of Exile. Now, here is it's sculptural in nature. It's although you can be obviously entering and walking through it, the whole way it is built is very sculptural. Where the ground itself, it's just a series of columns placed in in a squarish form, but you can walk through the columns, but the ground itself is tilted. And so it is a perfect square of 49 columns on a slanting floor with olive willows growing out of them. So it shows hope, but it also shows a sense of displacement. Now, when somebody is exiled, when somebody is forcefully sent away from the place where they were born and the place where the place where you have a livelihood, a daily lifestyle, you suddenly feel very displaced, and that sense of displacement is what this particular built environment represents. So the Garden of Exile stands for that, but the olive branches that grow out of these columns represent that yes, there is still hope for the life that follows after the exile. So the entire project then if it has to be simplified, and if it is narrating a story, it is doing it along three axes. One is the axis of death, which everybody understands that if you went to the Holocaust, then you died. So that is a very abrupt ending to a life. The other one would be the Garden of Exile, which means that you were sent out, but you still lived, and then you had another alternative kind of narration to your life. And the third one is the axis of continuity, which means you are now trying to, the Holocaust is over, all the atrocities and everything that you went through is all done, and now you're trying to kind of go ahead with your life. And how do you kind of continue with your life, and how do you take it forward? So that is the axis of continuity. So these three axis lines, it's pretty much like as if the story narration has three lines of continuity, has three lines around which you are kind of narrating a story, which also happens to be the three axis for the architectural project. So this is a project which gives you enough of an understanding about how you can narrate stories through architecture. And this particular slide was put specifically because so we've been discussing Daniel Lipskin's Jewish Museum all across. And again, I'm not passing any judgment about yet another Holocaust museum, which is the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. But if you had to just look at the form which got used, one by Daniel Lipskin and one by this architect here, it raises the same. The reason why I'm putting up another example is to just raise the same dialogue again. About the very nature of a museum. Should the museum be a facade, or should the museum be a canvas on which you can put up objects, letters, artifacts, which then narrate the story? Or should the museum building itself become so iconic that it stands apart? Not to say that this building is not iconic, and not to say that this building does not have its set of followers, but the Jewish Museum literally did, without any artifacts inside, it still had its own set of followers who came and cherished and wondered at the museum even before the artifacts entered the museum. So where does that leave us as designers? And when we end up eventually designing a museum, which approach do we take? Do we take up the approach of making the museum building absolutely iconic, which means that you give the city its identity through the museum building, and then the museum building completely reflects the entire narration of the story of the event that the museum stands for? Or do you want it to be something which is very, very plain, something which is very, very devoid of any expression, so that it then becomes a canvas for further expression? So this is something that one should always debate about before starting the design of a museum. It will always help in it will always help in, it's not to say that you need to be black and white. It's not to say that you have to be on one side, but it's always nice to know that these are the different directions in which your museum could go, and then you could probably make a healthy mix of all of this and then see where your design takes you. Yeah, thank you, and hope this particular presentation helps you with the designing of your museum for the studio. Thank you.